Hey fairy friends, it's Matrine here, and today we'll be discussing the green legends. Now instead of ranking these from best to worst, I'd rather show you how often I encounter these cards in ranked matches, while sharing their general strengths and weaknesses. Remember that just because a card is underplayed, doesn't mean it's terrible. It could be the meta hasn't shifted in its favor yet, or the meta is waiting for a player like you to take a new approach to that underplayed card and make it the meta. Now before I start, a quick disclaimer that I've only been playing Faeria for about 6 months, and I'm not a top tier god ranked player. Just a casual enthusiast hoping to offer my own experience, and more importantly hear from all of you about your own thoughts and experiences with these cards, so please feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear your perspectives. So we'll start out with Ruunin the Relentless, a legend I opened on my first day with Faeria, and a reliable companion ever since. Ruunin is most commonly seen in bulky mono-green decks with Feed the Forest synergy. You want to draw her early on, if not in your opening hand, so you can get the most out of her relentless rebirth stack growth. With a dedicated Well Collector, you'll be able to +1 Faeria into Ruunin every turn mid-game. Her Dash 2 ability is valuable for racing up one side of the board, covering your opponent's Well Collection tile, then dropping an aggressive forest. You want to trigger her Last Words ability as early as possible, so unless your opponent is out of Faeria and you really want to maintain board control, I don't recommend using your buffs on Ruunin. Now, since Ruunin's true value comes from persistent investment once she's first activated, your strategy is highly susceptible to soft removal such as Frogify, Crystal Flower, and Azure Skywhale. If your opponent plays Ruunin, often the best strategy is to avoid her entirely. Ruunin players will try to bait you into attacking her, but you'll just end up wasting your resources. Hard removal, such as Last Nightmare, can actually be counterproductive when used on Ruunin, since you're just sending her back to hand with buffed stats. Ruunin is, by far, the green legend I see the most in ranked play, and also the legend I have the most experience playing. So please pardon me if my other green legend summaries aren't quite as comprehensive. If you're experienced with any of these, please chime in with comments. Up next, we have Tethra, Soul of the Wild, one of the 4 dragons of Faeria. Tethra has great burst potential in a deck that's able to save up that 10 Faeria cost. There's a green structure called Faeria Tree that I rarely see played, but could really accelerate an aggressive mid-game Tethra, so please let me know if you've ever tried out that combo. More often though, Tethra is played as a closer, once you have full control of one side and an aggressive creature to buff with that +5/+5. You can certainly self-buff Tethra to an 11/11, but I think it's much safer to spread those stats to another creature so you're not as susceptible to removal. Now, if you suspect your opponent is running Tethra and they're close to 10 Faeria, try to clear the board of creatures as soon as you can, with priority for the creatures closest to your orb. Without any removal options, its Flying Charge 2 can rush your orb really quickly and overwhelm you. It's definitely a legend that forces a reaction when played. Next, we have Eredon, Voice of All, who has obvious synergy with green-yellow sacrifice decks. Eredon is most valuable in your opening hand or early game because of that powerful Last Words ability. As you deplete your hand and deck, Eredon gradually loses value, so if you draw him in your late game, its 5 Faeria cost and 3/3 stats don't have nearly as much impact. Still, more often than not, it's worth running Eredon for that consistent Last Words value. Now, Tarum, the Forest World, is quite expensive at 15 Faeria and definitely benefits from direct synergy with Feed the Forest, since it's the most realistic way to activate that Last Words ability. By the time you're able to afford Tarum, chances are that your opponent is either pushing lethal orb pressure, or they have soft removal in hand to deal with him. Like with Ruunin, Frogify, Crystal Flower, or Azure Skywhale can be absolutely devastating to a Tarum strategy. That said, if you can manage to activate Tarum's Last Words, it has crazy synergy with both Everbloom Wisp and Oakfather. Last, and kind of least, is Tree of Everlife. Now when this Oversky legend was first released, it was absolutely nuts. everyone was running crazy Tree of Everlife ramp decks. It was a lot of fun to pull off, but not so much fun to play against. Since it was rebalanced, I haven't seen it played once in ranked, which is pretty disappointing, but I understand why, because blue-green ramp decks have much more consistent late-game threats in Frog Tusser and Azure Skywhale. Maybe the meta will shift in Tree's favor, but I really doubt it since land ramp strategies are already pretty dominant. So that wraps up my quick summary of the 5 green legends. I hope to continue this series with the other colors, so please let me know which colored legends you'd like to hear about next, and if you have any specific legend tips you'd like me to include. I'll be sure to credit you in the video guides. Again, this has just been my own humble observation I wanted to share with all of you, so please let me know if I missed anything critical. If you enjoyed the video and found this helpful, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Twitch, where I hope to ramp up my streaming and occasional Faria tournament casting. Until next time, Faria friends, take care, good luck, and have fun.